So, hello everybody. It's a pleasure to be here at CopyCamp as usual. Let's do the typical introduction. So I'm a lawyer, but I'm not going to apologize for that today because just for one reason, because I will be talking about money today, and lawyers are very good at talking about money, as you know very well. Actually, we are talking about royalties. So you see, we are talking about royalties. So we have the old royalties and we have the new royalties you see there. And God save the royalties, I would say. So this is the title of my presentation. I will try to make some fun because I know that it's late and you don't want to talk about the law. Maybe it's better to talk about beers. But at the end of the day, we are here. So I will try to entertain you a little bit about telling you a story of how the Barnier Directive, so the directive regarding the collective management of music copyright, has been enacted and implemented in throughout Europe, focusing in particular on what happened in Italy, which is a little bit strange, but it's interesting because it shows how the market is reacting to this directive, which I recall having been enacted by the EU in 2014. So I said that we will be talking about money, and I would like to focus a little bit on the relationship between the artist and especially the musical artist with money. So Nat King Cole said that she was in the music business only for one purpose, so to make money. And Renoir said that the only reward you can give to an artist is to buy his work. And Marina Abramovic, which I'm sure you know very well, in her artist's life manifesto, talked about the possessions that an artist should have and how he has to cope with that. You see, these are excerpts from the manifesto. So Pink Floyd said that money should go away, get away. They seem not to be interested in that because art is pure, should not compromise with that. But Frank Zappa, another rock hero, said that at the end of the day, we're all in it for the money. This is the cover of a famous Frank Zappa album, very funny cover. And actually, Pink Floyd maybe gave a second thought on that. So money is useful. So artist freedom, that is true, but artists should be free to do a number of things. So they should be free to express, and freedom of expression bears with that the freedom to decide, the freedom to choose. But to choose what? They should be free to choose what to play, in terms of music, I mean, how to play it, where to play it, who should listen to it, and where, how, on which platforms. They should also decide who should not listen to it, how much one should pay for it, how to keep track of those listening, and who should collect the royalties and how. So, over the last few years, especially since we had the advent of digitalization of music and the advent of streaming platform, music artists have begun to claim more and more control and freedom of choice over the accessibility of their own music and the profits they could make from it. We have seen a number of cases where artists stepped in managing how they should get a reward for the copyright, which is the essential law and economics principle behind all IP law. Get a reward and give incentive to future creations. So we have a 2007 example from Radiohead. You will remember that their album In Rainbows was actually offered for free for a couple of months after the publication on the internet. Actually, not really for free. There was a system that allowed users on the internet to go and just place an offer, whatever people liked. So there was not a fixed price. Everyone could just go and also get the album for just a few zloty. Then we had Taylor Swift. I'm sure you've heard about it, and she was involved in a very, very big debate with Spotify and the streaming platforms because she refused in 2014 to give her album 1989 to Spotify for being streamed there because the royalties were too low, according to her. There was a huge debate between Prince and YouTube because he didn't want to have video of his works, of his performances on YouTube, again because the royalties were too low. And then we had a very big issue with Adele and a number of other world-famous artists such as Rolling Stones and Queen in 2016. Guess against who? Someone like him. So because there was a huge debate about Trump's presidential campaign and the right that President Trump had to use Adele's music and Rolling Stones music to in his rally. And the artist actually went against the SCAP and BMI blanket licensing system because they wanted to have control. Again, they wanted to have personal control over the uses of their art. We have also a much smaller case, which is typically Italian, but I have to mention it, which is about Lucio Battisti, who is one of the greatest pop singer in Italy, and there's a huge litigation going on about the relationship between the two co-authors of some of the most well-known pop songs in Italy. And again, it's all about control because one of the co-author wanted these works to be accessible over the internet, and the other one, the estate of the other one, is opposing to that kind of accessibility. So what the Barnier Directive said about this? So the Barnier Directive fixed a very strong principle, which is the principle of the freedom of choice. So the Barnier Directive says basically that authors should be really free to choose who is going to license their work and who collects the revenue flow. These are, I will quote two considerando, two recitals of the directive, recital 15 and recital 19, and you see what the directive says. Right holders should be free to entrust the management of their rights to independent management entities, which are commercial entities, even with profit purposes. And again, they should be free to choose a collective management organization in order to manage a number of rights and exploitations. And these are the number of exploitation they should be free to control. Deciding whether to cope with that personally or to give a mandate to a collective management organization, which should be a profit entity or an association, a non-profit entity. So let's see what happened in Italy. And I don't want to bore you with Italy because probably you will never have anything to do with Italy, but I think it's a very, very good example of how the Barnier Directive has been implemented and how or what are the problems when you have to implement a single body of law from the EU into the several member countries. So the Barnier Directive was not implemented in Italy until December 2017. So it's 3 years. It was 3 years from the date where the directive has passed. Before Barnier, we had SIAE, which was the General Collecting Society for Music Royalties, and not only for music in Italy, which was instituted by Act of Law in 1941 as a public entity created, again by the law, as an association of authors and publishers. The general idea behind that was that at the time, the legislator thought that there was a number of exploitations which an author personally could not easily control, and therefore a public body like this had the public function to preserve copyright, to give incentive to copyright, and to give rewards in the most in the easiest way. So actually, before the Barnier in Italy, you could choose SIAE or actually do it yourself. So just manage all the rights yourself. But of course, you had some problems, and no other entity was admitted. So I will go quickly because I'm just run out of time. But the problem is that so we have music has changed, the market has changed, and there was some criticism around how SIAE collected the royalties, and there was some criticism regarding some lack of transparency, some criticism regarding the fact that it was not really adapt to meet the needs of the new musical scene, and to favor only big authors and publishers and not small independent artists. So I will be very quickly. Now there is I will just go very quickly. Now there is a big litigation going on between SOUNDREEF and SIAE. SOUNDREEF is a new player who actually is an independent management entity, which under the Barnier Directive, which operates from the UK. There was a number of exploitation rights which in Italy could be considered outside the SIAE's mandate, even before the Barnier. And SOUNDREEF started to operate from the UK with regard to those exploitation which were not reserved by the law to SIAE, which were very minor, such like in-store background music, this kind of stuff. But SOUNDREEF made a lot of pressure about the reform, and now there is this litigation going on because even after the Barnier Directive was implemented in Italy, the Italian government chose to make several attempts to implement the directive, but the first attempt in March 2017 was not really good because actually nothing really changed. They changed the law, but they kept the exclusivity area of SIAE. And then the antitrust stepped in, and also the EU Commission stepped in. And something has been changed. The Italian government was forced to reconsider the reform, and in October 2017 they changed once again the rule in order to allow the market to be open. Yes, I'm going to finish with that. The problem is that, as you said, the Barnier Directive said that also independent management entities should be admitted, also profit entities should be admitted, but the current version of the reformed Article 180 only admits non-profit entities to work on this. So it's not a really full liberalization of the market, and the litigation is still going on, and there is an investigation by the antitrust authority which is still pending, and we will see what's going to happen. I have to go very quickly. So SOUNDREEF spot slogan is "Royalties made easy," because they have they claim to have a better system for accounting royalties, for reporting, much quicker to collect and pay the authors. But will it be really true? And at the same time, now the market there's a lot of confusion in the market because players are not really sure what they're gonna do because the market is open, but there's still uncertainty about who are the players and the reliable players to manage these things. And I will end with this quote by James Hardy, which says that freedom of choice is important even under the presumption that the choice will not fructify. So maybe the Barnier Directive did a good job just establishing the freedom of choice, but the market will say if this principle in Italy, like in other countries, will actually pay off. Sorry for having run out of time, and thank you for your attention. I'm available for any question or qualification after this.